Well, this video is not going to make some people happy. What's up, guys? My name is Sean from White Jade Productions, and today we're talking about cinema lenses and why YouTube has told you you need them and why you probably don't. A little bit of my background. Obviously, I own cinema lenses. These are the Blazar Remus, and these are the only cinema lenses I own for now, just because I found that I don't think I'm going to need any anytime soon. A bit of my background, I've shot with plenty of anamorphic lenses. I've shot with Cooke. I've shot with red lenses. I've shot with ARRI Master Primes, Ingenue, most of the lens brands out there I've shot with, including a lot of DZO's lenses, including their zooms, their budget primes, their Arles primes. I've shot with a lot of cinema lenses, and most of the time I find myself gravitating towards other types of lenses. In fact, I'm shooting this video on a 24-70, and I find myself gravitating towards this lens because for the price, there's absolutely no way I'm buying a set of Vespids when I have a 24-70 and 70-200 that just look good. In this video, we're gonna talk about why you shouldn't buy cinema lenses, or maybe why you should, completely depending on what you do, and the reasons for both. Let's get into it with point number one, and that is the fact that you don't need cinema lenses for most kind of video work. Obviously, if you're shooting a short film, a cinema lens can be very helpful. If you're doing documentary, they're awesome. But at the end of the day, if you're a person who prioritizes autofocus or autofocus systems like LiDAR, then they're probably not for you. You should probably just stick to maybe stopping down your Sony, Canon, or Nikon or Sigma glass that is autofocus and slapping a light mist filter or some kind of diffusion on there to achieve a similar look. Obviously, it is not the same and it's not going to be of high as a quality, but is it really worth dropping 3, 4, 5, or 6 grand on a cinema lens kit just to have a look that your client probably won't notice? It kind of sucks. I know you want to play with the new cool toys, but once you throw gear acquisition syndrome or gas out of the window, you're kind of left with this void of what looks better and what actually helps you grow as a filmmaker. I would personally rather invest $1,000 into lighting than $3,000 into lenses. Lighting is going to elevate my images way more than a lens ever could, even when you're talking about really, really, really expensive lenses. Lights just matter more, cameras matter more, audio matters more, so does skill. So I don't think that if you're in a position to upgrade, then you should. A lot of people feel that because they can, they should. And it's just not the case. Just because you have the money or the ability to upgrade to some cinema lenses definitely doesn't mean you should. So why or when should you upgrade to cinema lenses? I would classify this into two categories. I was talking to my buddy Ryan, and he kind of had this thought. He kind of inspired this video actually. He said that the only reason you should be upgrading to cinema lenses is, one, you need them for your workflow, i.e. you're shooting a lot of commercials, you're working with ACs a lot, you don't use autofocus, and you need higher quality because you're getting paid more, and that would improve your payment out with your kit. In other words, production companies and directors will pay you more because you have higher quality gear and you're not shooting on a 24-70. Obviously, a good reason. In other words, you need cinema lenses because you're doing cinematic style work, not just corporate interviews. Fair enough. The other reason was you want to do cinematic style or high quality work. So invest in the Blazar Remus lenses. These suckers are great. I bought these for that reason. I wasn't necessarily in need of them. I definitely did shoots where these would come in handy, and I still do shoots where these come in handy, and I use them a lot. But I mainly got them so that I could get into the music video industry and break into that. I got these preemptively because I knew I was going to need them, because that's where I want to go with my career. That's where I'm gonna take my career. So these are useful for that. I would never have invested, and still won't invest, in something like the DZO Vespids or Nisi Athena lenses. I just don't need those for that kind of work. When I do corporate interviews, I shoot with lenses like I'm shooting on right now. This is the Nikkor 1.8G. It's a great lens. It looks phenomenal. It's a little sharp, so I tend to throw on mist filters, but it looks great, and I've used it for a lot of interviews. Take this shot here. I was running B cam. It looks phenomenal. I think I stopped this down to like f4, threw on a little bit of ND, and I did the lighting for this as well. It looks good. There's no reason to have cinema lenses for that. However, if you're looking to do kind of work where you need cinema lenses, like if you're shooting documentary interviews and you're doing a 4-cam setup and there is 4 hours of prep time for you to set up, and it's gonna go on Netflix or HBO, or it's gonna, National Geographic. If it's going somewhere, yes. And it doesn't have to be any of those streaming services, obviously. Some people do independent stuff, put it into film festivals and whatnot. Yeah, then you might want a cinema lens, whether that's anamorphic, spherical, or zoom. You might want that. So what about for the people who shouldn't buy cinema lenses? I've gone over who probably should, but what about the people who shouldn't? I find that unfortunately there are a lot of people out there who have gear acquisition syndrome or think they could step up to a cine lens and they probably just shouldn't. Like I said earlier, I would rather take lighting equipment and honestly anything else over lenses. You will hear a lot of DPs talk about that the lens matters more than the camera, and if you ask a lot of DPs what they shot their last film on, they will probably answer, at least the good DPs will, with the lens and not necessarily the camera. That might come after, depends who you talk to, but still a lot of DPs will answer with the lens, not the camera, not the lights. The reason they do that is because when you're up to a certain level of DP and cinematography, you have all the lights, you have all the cameras, you have all the gear. The lens is really what will drive the image because everything is already so fine-tuned. But if you're wondering whether or not you should buy a budget cinema lens, you certainly aren't there. So people get confused and often think that the lens is going to change the game, and it certainly will make your images look better. Unfortunately, nobody else will notice. Most people won't be able to tell a difference. It hopefully will improve your cinematography, but is $1,000 for a single lens really worth it when there are plenty of other things that you could spend your money on that will guaranteedly make you better to the masses, whether that be on Instagram, YouTube, or clients you work with. So if you're thinking about buying a cinema lens and you're wondering which category of person you are, you're probably in the latter category that I'm talking about now, of the person who isn't quite ready to buy a cinema lens or probably just shouldn't. I would completely break this down into what type of stuff you shoot. If you mainly shoot weddings, maybe not. Depends what kind of clientele you serve. If you're charging more than $3,000 for a wedding, yeah, a cinema lens might be for you. It really might level up your game, especially when it comes to that creamy cinematic B-roll when you're working with just the couple or you're shooting detail shots, that kind of stuff. Definitely can be useful. I certainly do that a lot with anamorphic lenses. It really does make a wedding film kind of jump up to the next level, but not necessarily worth it if you're not making that much money or doing weddings that consistently. If you're shooting sports, no, don't bother with the cinema lens. You will love it at first, and within like 3 games, events, or practices, you will probably want to throw it back in the case and ship it back to B&H and opt for your 24-70 and 70-200 again because they're way more versatile. If you shoot music videos, I would almost always say yes, if you're making money off of them. I don't think it's necessarily worth it if you're just shooting a lot of social media content, vertical content. I'm talking about music videos or visualizers, as these companies and record labels like to call them. I disagree on that, but hey, if you want to fight me in the comments, go for it. But if you shoot music videos, yeah, getting a very stylized cinema lens can absolutely be useful for you. Ditching autofocus is probably the best thing you could do. Things definitely level up when you jump to cinema lenses. Not to mention you can get very creative with the lighting on a rather cheap budget. If you shoot a lot of short films or commercials or anything that is narrative in nature, a cinema lens will definitely help you if you have a crew. If you don't have a crew, I might advise against it. It depends how good your focus pulling skills are, in all honesty. I encourage people to start with vintage lenses and then go from there, just because those can be rather easy to pull focus on and are obviously very, very cheap. So if you are gonna buy a cinema lens, here are some of my recommendations. First off, I would probably pick up any secondhand kit. I wouldn't buy new. I don't think that there are many cinema lenses out there that are worth buying new, and if somebody is selling them, it's probably because they didn't get much use out of them. They're probably brand new anyways, and have only been used a couple times. Beyond how to purchase a cinema lens, some of my immediate recommendations would be the 7 Artisans Infinite lenses. I haven't had a chance to use them personally, but I have talked with 7 Artisans about them and some of their reps. I've seen a lot of test footage from them. They look great. They seem to work really well. Everybody I've talked to who has used them have said that they're a good budget clean option if you want to start out with cinema lenses. They're like 700 bucks and some change. Great deal. I would also recommend the DZO Vespid lenses. I've had the chance to shoot with them quite a bit lately. Really, really love them. I love how the 16 looks. The 35 looks great. I love using the 100 and 125. They are really good, high quality telephoto cine lenses. When you put them on, specifically the 100 and 125, there's definitely a difference between using that and using like a 70 to 200. I can definitely feel the difference. Very high quality. Purchasing them secondhand are about the same price, 700 to like 800 bucks. You can pick them up used on eBay, Adorama, or B&H. If you're gonna go the zoom route, currently, don't know if it's still up by the time this video releases, but B&H has the full frame DZO Cata zooms. They're $3,000 for both of them. So that's a good deal. Normally I think they're $6 grand. So that's a great pickup. The Nisi Athenas are fine. The price really hasn't dropped. They look good. If you have the money, great. I don't really think they're worth the price. Once you start crossing over that $1,200, $1,300 threshold, I almost like advise people to go for the Arles lenses. If you want the biggest bang for your buck, the DZO Arles lenses, absolute goats. I've used my buddy Ryan's, his 40 millimeter. Just, there's something about that lens, you put it on a camera and it does look magical. Also, if you're gonna get into anamorphic, please don't buy a Sirui anamorphic lens unless you're shooting like documentary interviews, which I don't know why you're buying an anamorphic lens for that, I guess. Like, if that's all you do. Blazar Remus, they really are the best. I do not like the Mantis lenses, and I really, really don't like, frick, their 2X version, whatever those are. I like the Remus. The Remus are good. I bought 2 of them. I'll probably buy more in the future. I'm looking at that 100 right now. Very tempting. That's what I would go with. As far as some of the other options go, I would stay away from SLR Magic. Cheap. I would stay away from Rokinon. If it's under $600, I wouldn't buy it. It's not worth your money. You'll get essentially Chinese photo glass in a metal housing with some gears. That's what you're paying for. So if you're gonna buy a quality cinema lens, buy probably one of the ones I mentioned. There definitely are some others floating out there that there are high quality versions of. Be wise. Think about what you need. Every single cinematographer is different. Everybody has different needs. Just think about what gear you buy and if you're actually gonna use it and if it's actually gonna make you better. Thank you guys for watching, and until next time. By the way, this video was not shot with cinema lenses.